Hi, and welcome to Time Equation, a brand new YouTube channel dedicated to passion for watches. This is my personal channel on which I'll showcase my private collection, which consists of a number of timepieces I've collected over the last couple of years. I intend to showcase this collection one piece at a time, in the order I have acquired them, so that you can experience the collection the same way I did. You get to understand the reasons why I got these watches, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, and generally how they feel wearing them. There's no better place to begin this journey with a watch that started it all. This piece is something truly special. It is a modern-day pilot's watch icon. And given there's a Breitling book on the table, I'm sure you can guess what it is. This watch is something I wanted to buy for myself for a very long time. And while traveling abroad, I saw an ad for it at an airport. It just looked amazing. The design, the busy dial, the leather strap. To me, it was the perfect watch. And I just had to have it. Knowing next to nothing about mechanical watches, I decided to educate myself a little bit, so that when I get into an IAD, I can at least pronounce the brand name correctly, so that I know what to look for and what to ask. In that regard, YouTube has been very helpful. There's a lot of watch enthusiasts out there with channels like mine, and these are the folks a person can learn from. So like many others, I've spent months watching Tim, TGV, Federico, Eric, and Ted. They've armed me with the knowledge to feel comfortable walking into an AD and getting this watch I really wanted. And here's what I got. In this box, there is a Breitling Navitimer B01 with an in-house movement. It is my perfect watch, and this is the box it came in. So let's unbox it together. That way you get to experience the watch the same way I did. This cover slides up, and it's a hard leather cardboard box. There's this rivets on side, which I think are a very nice touch. And below it, when you slide it up, it reveals a leather pouch. So this is a great way to not only package the watch, but also it is a great traveling companion. I've certainly used it a couple of times myself. Carrying the watch this way always felt comfortable and worry-free. Inside it, as you can see, there is my Breitling Navitimer B01. And given the option of its sizes, I've gone for the 43mm version. It just looked better on my wrist. It looked better than the large one. Though, keep in mind that the Navitimer dimensions are a bit misleading. They measure from one end of the bezel to another. Therefore, it wears a little bit smaller than what you'd expect. This particular model is a self-winding automatic chronograph. Its case is made of stainless steel and it has sapphire crystals on both ends. On this end, the crystal is slightly domed. It is coated to be anti-reflective as well, and I found its legibility to be perfect under all light conditions. Its hands and indices are made from silver, and the chronograph seconds hand, as you can see, is painted red for increased legibility. It has 3 sub-dial registers, and that allows you to time events that last up to 12 hours in length. And if you look at the colors of these sub-dial registers, you'll see that they don't match the rest of the dial, which in the modern Breitling era means that the movement inside is an in-house movement. At the 4:30 position, there's a date window, and the crown allows it to be quick set. But of course, its biggest feature, and the reason why it's an ultimate pilot's companion, it has a sliding rule bezel. And that essentially turns this watch into an analog computer, which, as its manual states, does take a little time and patience to master. But when you do, you can do really quick calculations, both multiplication and division. But more importantly for pilots, you can do things like rate of ascent, fuel consumption, and a few more flight operations like these with ease. I'll admit I've only used it a few times myself, but never as a pilot would. I've only used it to calculate things like tip at a restaurant. And those times that I did use it, it helped me solve the hassle that is doing the math after a meal with ease. On the other side, and I'll get it open, you can see that I've opted for a tang type. In fact, the strap is a second strap I've had on this watch. Originally, it came on a black alligator strap. This one, to be more exact. But given the wear and tear on this one, I've decided to switch it up. I've gone with this blue intentionally. walking into an AD, I wanted to buy a really specific Navitimer. That one was called Aurora Blue. It had the blue face like this one. It had a gold Breitling logo and a blue strap. Now that this one is on a blue strap, it's closer to what I was looking for in the first place. And honestly, I'm really happy with the way it looks now. The back itself is a beauty to behold. Behind the sapphire glass, you can see the B01 movement, which, even though it's machine finished, still looks amazing. You can see the Breitling logo in the rotor. Above it, of course, is the column wheel, as this is a vertical clutch column wheel chronograph. The sensation of pushing that chronograph button is second to none. The action produces a clean and crisp sound, and it's a pleasure to use. Finally, the movement sits on 47 joules. And it's stated here on the back, the Navitimer and water don't really go well together. It's only water resistant up to 3 bars. So personally, I wouldn't take it anywhere near water. The main culprit, of course, for that is the slide rule in the front. But since this is a pilot's watch, the water resistance isn't a deal breaker. Below the box, there's some paperwork. And when I open it up, you'll see it has this yellow certificate, which is the soft cost certificate, which basically means this watch is a certified chronometer. That means that it was tested continuously for 15 days in 5 positions with temperature variations. That within that time range it performed well between -4 and +6 seconds a day. And Breitling really is one of the rare watch houses that certifies all of its watches. They have a chronometry which does so for them. Below that there's an international warranty, which unfortunately I had to use for this watch twice, but more on that later. And on the other side there's a digital warranty, which you'll note says that I bought this watch about 2 years ago. Below all of that, there is the slide rule instructions, how to use them, and this cardboard cutout which lets you practice how to use the slide rule itself. At the very end of the box, you'll see the instructions for the watch, basically how to use the watch itself, how to wind it, how to use the chronograph functions, how to use the bezel and all that stuff. That's all in here. I mentioned that there have been issues with the watch. Since this was my first automatic, I didn't have much experience with these types of watches, so I took some of its quirks for granted. For instance, the crown was a little hard to turn, and after around 40 or so turns, it would get stiff. That's when I would stop winding, concerned that I could damage the watch. Of course, now I know that you can wind an automatic all day long, with no hazard to the movement whatsoever. Mine was just broken, and as a result, its power reserve would only last around 40 hours, instead of 70, as it should. So after a few months using it like that, I did decide to turn it in with my AD. They looked at it and said the watch needed service, so they sent it off to Breitling. It took about 6 weeks or so to get it fixed, and once it came back, its accuracy worsened a bit. It went from a steady +2 to +6 seconds a day. That's still within cost specification and didn't bother me that much. That wasn't the reason why I sent it back for service the second time around. Ever since I got the watch, again, first automatic, so I didn't know better, the chronograph start pusher was a little hard to press. And when I say a little, I mean I had to press it with my finger bone. I thought that was normal. Only when the pusher started to be really slow to reset after you press it, did I suspect that it too was flawed. You could literally watch it rise back up from the case. It took about 5 seconds to do so. So back to service it went. Luckily, unlike the crown issue, the AD was allowed to repair the watch in-house. So I got it back without the need for it to be shipped back to Switzerland. They took good care of it, and now it runs perfectly. Issues aside, Breitling Navitimer is still one of my favorite watches. I wear it constantly, and I would never part from it. This is the first automatic watch I ever bought, but that was enough for the watch bug to bite me. Following this one, my collection grew rather quickly. Every few months I'd buy a new watch that was different from the last. Today, my collection stands at 12 pieces, each with its own story and a set of quirks. I invite you to follow my watch collecting journey by subscribing to my channel. That way you'll get notified and discover the watch I've chosen next. Until then.